Welcome to Vin and Mike, episode 14. We're making it good, Mike. We're really bashing out these episodes every week. I'm really happy where we're headed with this podcast. How you doing, Mike?
Vinny, you come with such enthusiasm. I love it.
I'm always ready on these Monday nights. We're recording. People don't know, but we're recording a little earlier than we normally record. So I think I'm a little more awake. Maybe I'm a little more pumped about our topics tonight that we ran down beforehand. So maybe a little of that has something to do with it also. But it's also been a chilly day here in the New York metro area, and I think maybe that's got the blood flowing pretty good too.
Well, I love to see you enthused, Vinny, because I don't know what you're like when you're not. So. Anyway, welcome to the show. Want to give a special shout out to one of our listeners, Tom Loeffner, and he had a baby girl today, nice. Hayden Sophia. So, Tom, congratulations to you and your family. And when your daughter's crying at night, just tune in to Vin and Mike.
That's right. Right. He can listen to every maybe the baby want to listen to the podcast. That'll calm her down, and that's the way she'll go to sleep every night. You should test it out.
I don't think there's any better way. Listen to this show.
I also, I want to just pass some sad news real quick, and just give a special condolences to a good friend of ours of the show, Andy Vigiliotti, who lost his mom yesterday to cancer. And as we know, it affects all of us some way, somehow, some form. And just want to pass on the condolences to Viggy Betts and Andy over there. He's a great friend of mine for a long time and a really good friend of the show's now. So just my condolences on that too.
Yes.
But we are here having fun. We just before we came on, we were talking a little Raptors, Sixers, NBA tonight. Scotty Barnes being out, and Mike a little shocked about how bad Toronto played in Game 1 and all that stuff. But last night, yesterday afternoon, here in the New York area, everybody I think was a little amazed at how easily Jason Tatum made a layup to win a game. Kyrie tried
anticlimactic, right?
Kyrie tried to make it sound like he did this spinning move and fantastic layup. I'm like, no, guys, you just double teamed the smart, and he just found them wide open. And it's really what it came down to. But it was a really good game. I know. All the games so far have been interesting. Some of them not so good. I think that was the best game of them all. A lot of them have been pretty much blowouts across the board. I think the only one I think I was most shocked about was how poorly Memphis played against Minnesota. I thought they would play a lot better. Mike, I know you watched a lot. You hit some of your parlays and a bunch of other things, as my parlay was terrible the other day.
I saw that.
I don't think the guys combined scored enough points for one of them.
You are banned from the stories now. And he does pick good parlays. Now, in the Minnesota game, as you know, they won the playing game against the Clippers, and the person who stood out to me the most was Anthony Edwards, the rookie, first playoff game. Vinny, do you realize he had as many points as Dr. J and Kareem? In his first playoff game. That was a stat, 36 points.
So Dr. J and Kareem also had the same amount of points? Or
yes.
Oh,
yes,
really? In their first
first playoff game.
Wow, that's nice company to be held with, that's amazing.
I was so impressed with his play, and just they were just the better team. So I was pleasantly surprised on that one too. Against the Memphis team that's been strong, especially in the second half of the season. But getting back to the Nets game, though, Kyrie Irving was unbelievable. Let's just put it that way. Now, KD wasn't as much, but that in Game 2, that probably won't be the case. And if he plays up to his potential, which he definitely could, the Nets have to win Game 2 in Boston. I think it's one of those games where it's so important for momentum. And I just felt also that Steve Nash, as far as offensive plays and the defense, just looked in disarray. I felt he didn't have them in place, especially the way they had that game. and there were certain parts of the game where it was just blown. I felt that the coaching wasn't there. Did you feel that way? That things were kind of out of whack?
Yeah, I think the problem that I felt is that early run in the third quarter. When the second half just started, I felt they were just like not syncing up right, and things just felt off. And I think I think it was a 15-2 run to start the third quarter, the second half. I felt at that point is when Boston, got back into the game and really like pushed things ahead. I know things, in the fourth quarter, everything comes back and, they had the lead, with the 12 seconds to go. But I think those little runs, when you look in basketball, those are the important ones. And I think, I think that's where they were off defensively. They weren't in sync. And I think you hit the nail on the head with KD. He just didn't have his normal kind of game. You look at his numbers, if you're just looking at numbers, and you would say, oh, he had an okay game, right? Maybe a good game, but he wasn't his normal self. He didn't play at that level. And I thought Bruce Brown, who was playing fantastic, before yesterday's game, was also a big reason why they had trouble. I thought, he didn't do all the little things that he's been doing in the past games. So those are the things that I looked at. I thought were big issues for the Nets, and I felt, those are areas where you're okay with, especially like if you lose a game at one point because Durant isn't on fire, and the way Kyrie played, I think you're in good shape, and I think they had a good shot at winning game two.
A person that I was impressed with coming off the bench was Goran Dragic. He was a bright spot for the Nets. Strong playoff experience coming off the bench. I think he had 12 or 14 points. He added a spark to their offense yesterday. It's definitely utilized, and if he continues to play that way, and if KD starts to play well again, this series I think could go to 7 games. This is the most exciting series in the playoffs right now. I think you have 2 evenly matched teams for different reasons, and the Nets were right there. It was back and forth, and you get your 2 superstars to play as they should, they'll be right in this. There's no reason why they can't win this series.
Yeah, I think they got a really good shot of taking the series. The betting public definitely thinks they have a good shot of winning the championship, as we mentioned last week on last week's show when we looked at all the odds and, for them to win the Eastern Conference and win the championship. So I think the Nets are definitely a team to continue to watch out for. To me, Durant is one of the best players ever to play the game, right? When you really look back on it as a whole, he's just one of the best shooters I've ever seen play basketball, and for his size and all the different things that he does, I think that's where the Nets are going to continue to move forward and be tough. I really like their matchups inside too. I think Horford had a good game, but I think they need to take a little more advantage with Drummond, and I think maybe even more advantage with Claxton. To me, Claxton is one of those guys that's very athletic. He's got good offensive ability around the post. I'd like to see the Nets try to, when those double teams come at Kyrie and Durant, maybe try to get the ball in the paint to a guy like Claxton. And I know Seth Curry's probably going to have to be the guy that really makes a lot of those open shots. That's the reason they have him on this team. That was the reason they made part of that trade, why they wanted him thrown into the Harden trade, because of his ability to hit open three-pointers. So I think they'll have to try to take advantage of that. But on the flip side, Marcus Smart, man, that guy is just a player. He plays really good defense. He makes plays. He does a lot of things. And, I always say it to this day. I thought Tatum, when Boston traded down, I think they had the first overall pick or the second pick, and they traded down to 3. And Fultz and Ball were the first 2 picks in that draft, and then they took Tatum. I know they had all inclinations of taking Tatum no matter what, wherever they were drafting. They just knew that the value at that time of the draft was on those 2 guards, and they were able to make that move and get Tatum. And, there's no doubt in my mind Danny Ainge thought that Tatum was the best player coming out that year. and he's definitely shown, he's an elite level player. I know the layup, we made a little fun of it, but still, he's a guy that, had another big game. Jaylen Brown is another fantastic player, and we'll see if they get healthy too. If, Robert Williams comes back at any point. They're gonna really be really tough moving forward here. So I think that's why I think they have a good shot at taking game 2, and I think, like you said, I think game 2 is important for some of those other reasons also.
Yeah, the other game I was really surprised about was how poorly the Hawks played against the Heat. Now, I figured they were going to lose the game. The point spread was, I think, 6 or 7. But after that dramatic win against the Cavaliers and how dominant Trae Young was, Miami, they have one of the best defenses for a reason.
Yeah.
He trapped them. Yep. He was, throughout the game, just inconsistent, and they were just in major disarray the whole game.
Yeah.
From even the opening moments, they were not in the game. Duncan Robinson off the bench, what a stroke. And then along with Jimmy Butler and PJ Tucker, Miami, they're a first seed, but a team that kind of has not been talked about. They don't get the recognition they should. And even Charles Barkley was saying, I believe, that there's no real star players, but there's players with heart.
Yeah.
So this team competes. You saw it game 1. They totally outplayed them, and it'll be interesting what a what the Atlanta Hawks do game 2 and how they come back from this.
Yeah, I think I think Charles Barkley's 100% correct with when there's not a big star, right? Like, you look at Jimmy Butler, and you don't look at him maybe as one of the top 10 players in the league, right? When you really break it down, he's probably not, and you don't look at him like that. And you look at Bam, he's a guy that does a lot of the little things, but he can do 15 and 15, if you need him to do that. But you hit the nail right on the head, Mike. This team plays defense. They play a really good defense. I think Trae Young was 1 for 10 from the field at one point. I don't know what he finished with, but he was way off. The entire team. I looked at the stat line. I think it was midway through the third quarter. They were 3 for 19 from 3-point range. The Hawks were. I know Clint Capella was out, but that doesn't it's not a big deal usually on the offensive side of the ball for Atlanta. If anything, it would have been maybe a little struggle on the defensive side, but Miami just had their number all game. Herro is a really, really good young player. And don't forget, Kyle Lowry is their starting point guard. We forget that how good Lowry was for Toronto over the last few years, and how good of a player he really is. I know he didn't have a fantastic stat season for Miami, but They got a lot of depth there. They play a lot of good defense. Again, I always think Spoelstra is underrated sometimes as a head coach, because I think people look back when he won championships with LeBron. But the guy really knows how to coach. That team is definitely going to be a force. Going to be very tough to play, especially they're going to have home court advantage as of the number 1 seed in the East. But they're definitely a team that interests me in moving forward.
Yeah. And then we have the Mavericks and Jazz. Such a shame about Luka, because when you're missing your star player, very difficult to win games. Now, they played well. They played well. They lost by 6.
Yeah.
They were in the game most of the time. And Brunson, Winwiddle, they played outstanding.
Yeah, Brunson's really good.
Brunson played so well, but Donovan Mitchell, he was too much, and I'll tell you that, again, it's such a huge loss. And Vinny, you had mentioned that he's not playing again tonight, right?
He's doubtful right now, which to me that means he's not playing. Yeah. Unless he's going to get some kind of super injection in his calf to get out there. But I don't see it. And I think it's like you said, you lose your star player. It's tough to win games, especially in the playoffs. It's going to be tough for them. And Utah, as you said, they have Mitchell, they have Gobert, they have Conley. They're just a very well built team. They've been together for a lot of years now. So they gel together. They've been in playoff runs together. That core kind of guys. So sometimes that all plays into helping a team. And Utah won. What did they win? Let me see here. They won. They were 49-33. So they're. It's not like they're a slouchy team. I know Dallas won a few more games, but again, without Luka being out there, it's just a big hit. So I think we'll see what comes out of it. But I think Utah is definitely gonna be a favorite to win that series now, even if Luka makes the return, because I think they got a good shot of going up 2-0 tonight.
I also want to give a shout out to the Chicago Bulls against Milwaukee. Milwaukee looked like they were running away with the game after the first quarter, and Chicago really kept it close. And this is a team that hasn't been able to compete with top teams in the East. That's been their biggest criticism. They played well, and they kept it close. And I got my hats off to the Bulls. They really did. It was a close-fought game. They were actually, I think, at one point down by 3 points. So. After the first quarter, looking like they were just going to walk all over them, the Bucks.
Yeah, and I think the Bulls played pretty good defense, right? They held that game was well under I think 179. I think was the total.
The total it was.
Yeah, so it was one of those like defensive struggles for both teams. I think Chicago one of the big things with them was Levine was hurt throughout the year, then DeRozan wasn't in, and they didn't. It's like they didn't have the full team together. They're still missing. They're missing someone that plays point guard. So they're still down. Like they still don't have a full squad all together there. But with DeRozan, Levine, and Vucevic, they might give Milwaukee a tough time. I don't see them. I see the series maybe going 5, but at least they're competitive.
They're competitive. That's what I want.
They were competitive.
Yeah.
The Phoenix game last night to me was not competitive at all. I'll tell you, Chris Paul, and again, I'm just jumping off this Bulls-Bucks game real quick, but Chris Paul is just amazing to me. He's one of the top point guards in the history of the game. I don't think we give him enough credit sometimes. This guy is one of the top point guards in the history of basketball. And he was amazing last night. He just put up all kinds of numbers, controlled the game from the start.
Yep.
I mean, he's just an amazing player. They're going to be very tough to beat. I constantly look at their team and go, I don't know how they won, 64 games. I'm not sure how well they're going to do against the Warriors, and but I think they're going to be tough no matter who they play against. I think they got a legit shot of winning this championship.
We said this before the playoffs. They were definitely the number one contender. But then you look at the powerhouse of Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. I mean, these three together.
Yeah.
I mean,
Paul, he's the general, right? It's like like Jason Kidd when he would run teams out there, and you just knew the guys around them were going to be better, and that's just the way I feel when Paul's out there, and he's a better scorer than Kidd was. Kidd wasn't a great scorer. Paul can, he put up 30 points last night. He was just amazing. And you're right, Booker is a star, and Ayton's still learning to play. He's literally learning how to play. But I like the little guys around them, like Jay Crowder and Bridges and Johnson. Like all those role players around, like the superstars. Those are the guys that always come in. Jay Crowder is one of those guys. He'll score like 5 points like last night and do nothing, and then come out in the next game and score like 25 and hit like 8 3-pointers, right? That's just like the kind of player he is. But he plays, and they play good defense. So I think it's a lot of fun. The NBA playoffs are swinging high. We're moving fast here. Before we know it, we'll be on to the next round. And I think I think things are still playing out to a Bucks Suns kind of championship. We'll see as time goes on, but that's the way I look at it right now.
Yeah, that'd be nice. As we talked about before these playoffs, it's been so good for the NBA because to me, aside from maybe Phoenix, there's no super team to me. Even Phoenix, I think, could be beat at the right time.
Yeah.
That's been the beauty. I mean, you look at the East, right? And look at all these teams that could make the finals. I mean, there's not one that really stands out to me right now. Yes, I think the Bucks have incredible depth and can do it, but you have a Miami team, you have the Nets, you have Boston, and that's the craziest part, that the Nets are playing Boston in the first round of the playoffs, a 7-2 seed.
Yeah.
Have we ever had this kind of 7-2 seed in the playoffs ever?
Well, you got to remember all the Nets injuries and all the stuff that went down, slid them down. So you ended up getting a really good.
Awesome.
You got a great matchup because of that. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the kind of NBA playoffs when we talk about Giannis and his next step in history. This could be the kind of playoff run and kind of playoffs where the Bucks win back to back. We might start thinking of Giannis now as like, he's the guy that's all of a sudden has the torch, right? Like eventually LeBron's passing that torch, Curry's passing that torch to one of these young guys, and this could be the playoffs where Giannis takes that torch and says, I'm the king of the hill now. And I know Durant wants to come back and say, no, I'm still the king, but it's very possible this is where that torch gets passed to that next, big young superstar.
Yeah.
So, but it's like you said, Mike, it's definitely a very well-rounded playoffs. It could be also that, LeBron's not in it. Right. So our focus is like the best player in the universe is not there. So it looks maybe more even to us. But at the same time, maybe Phoenix is that good, or maybe Milwaukee is that good. But you play the games for a reason. I'm excited to see where it keeps going. So we'll definitely continue to talk about this on other shows. But let's move on to the baseball season. It's gotten going. It's in high gear, and we are not very happy here on the Vin and Mike show because we are Yankee fans, and we are just not happy to where the Yankees are. Now, again, put a little perspective. It is only 10 games. They're only a game out of first. It's not like Toronto is 9-1 or Boston's 9-1. Everybody's is garbage right now in the AL East. They're right around each other. But I'll start it off, and this is how I feel. To me, this team did not hit clutch last year in a lot of situations. They had these big swinging home run guys. And, they got rid of Gary Sanchez, who was literally the same kind of swinging hitter as Stanton and Judge, maybe a tier lower, right? He's just not going to produce a lot of base hits in key situations. He's always looking to hit the 3-run home run. We add Josh Donaldson, we add kind of Falafa, and what did that do to improve the team? Right now, to me, it's done nothing. It didn't enhance anything. If anything, it's made the team exactly the same team as last year. So I look at it that. Then I look at kind of Falafel here, and he was a guy I thought would maybe bat leadoff or more towards the top of the lineup. And they're sitting him down at 7, and he's not hitting. And he's not doing anything that's productive for us as a 7 hitter. So to me, in the first 10 games, he's a waste of time. I'd rather have had Gio Urshela play shortstop and bat 7th, and I would have been just as happy because Urshela could field. He can play third base if we need him to. He can do other things and all that. So all that stuff is driving me crazy. The thing that's driven me the most nuts is DJ LeMahieu had core surgery in the off season. He was off last year, had a tough time last year, didn't have a great year, but he was our leadoff hitter all last year. This year, he bats sixth. He bats fifth. He's nowhere to be found in leadoff. We got Aaron Hicks, this bum leading off, who can't make a big hit when he counts on it. What the hell happened with LeMahieu here? Why isn't he our leadoff hitter again? Why can't he bat first? Why can't Rizzo bat second? Why LeMahieu, Rizzo, Judge, Stanton? Why can't we have a consistent order like that? Why does Rizzo lead off? I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand what they're doing on the offensive side at all. I think they've got the same kind of hitters. The team just disturbs me at a very high level right now when it comes to their batting order. I'll let you, pick up some of the slack here.
No, thank you. I agree with everything that you're saying. Let's just put it this way. You lose to the Orioles, who are probably one of the worst teams in baseball. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And Friday night was bad. You had 1 run in 11 innings, and then yesterday you're shut out. And the sad part is Nestor Cortez has a great game.
Oh, he was phenomenal.
He had 5 shutout innings and 12 strikeouts.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But when you can't hit, it does no good.
No.
So, Vinny, the one thing I respectfully disagree with you with, and Michael Kay actually said the same thing today, that it's only 10 games. Yes, it is, but this is the same as last year.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, no,
you're replicating what's happening last year, and your offense may be even worse. And you make a great point. The constant shuffling of the lineup, the inconsistency, and by doing that all the time, you're not going to have any consistency. And it's all about your lineup, your style, and maneuvers. And I just feel that things are in disarray. Now, DJ, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Donaldson are okay, but your rest of the lineup is below average. They're not doing anything. So you got to really think about, as you said, where are you going to put these people to be successful? And you get hits, and they're not doing that right now. It's been disappointing, especially against an Orioles team that you should, if you don't sweep them, at least take 2 out of 3 from the Orioles.
And I'm going to give you the biggest I don't want to say disappointment, but the biggest outrage that I've seen is Joey Gallo. Now, I'm going to tell you, here's where I see the biggest problem with this guy. The guy's got a great eye for the plate. He walks. He gets on base with walks. He can see balls and strikes, but he can't hit strikes. It's like me playing Major League Baseball. I can't hit a high school pitcher, might as well a Major League pitcher, but I can see if a ball's a ball or a strike and not swing it at it. I could do the same thing. The guy's a Major League player. He should be able to hit Major League pitching, especially with an eye like that. The guy that can, swings at good pitches and doesn't hit it. It makes zero sense to me. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Maybe I don't remember Dave Kingman playing. I didn't probably get to watch Adam Dunn enough, when he played out in Chicago and Cincinnati. Maybe I just don't realize that there's guys that have this kind of eye that really just can't hit at a major league level. But you're a major league player. He's a fantastic left fielder. The guy makes tremendous plays in the outfield, but he is a terrible, awful major league hitter. And I wouldn't bat him anywhere higher than 8th in that lineup. I'll be honest. I don't care that he's a lefty and you need a lefty. He doesn't do nothing for you. And he's untradeable. I mean, what are we going to do with this guy? I don't. But does it make any sense to you when you watch him play and you see him take good pitches, right? Like he makes sure that he swings at good pitches and he can't hit them. I'm telling you, I feel like I'm playing baseball out there. I can't hit. I know I can't hit, but I can tell the difference between a ball and a strike. This guy, it does the same thing I do. They can pay me the same amount of money to do that.
I think they should sign you right now. Put him on the bench.
I can DH right away.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I
No,
think he should be batting the 8th position,
it
7th, 8th, or
drives me
9th.
nuts. It drives me crazy. I mean, it's just insane. I think I told you at one time, he is the only guy in the history of baseball, Joey Gallo, this is,
Mm-hmm.
to have 100 home runs before he had 100 singles. That's the kind of hitter this guy really is.
Right. And that, again, this circles back to the team of last year. And you got to stop aiming for the fences and start just hitting the ball. You can't go for the – that was the biggest problem last year. Like as you said, Vinny, swinging for the fences.
This guy's ready for this.
Strategic baseball, and they're just not doing it right now.
Listen, he had in his time in Texas and the Yankees last year, he had 99 hits, okay? 52 of them were extra base hits. The other 47 were singles. This guy has more extra base hits than singles, which makes you realize the only thing he does is swing for the fences. That's all he does. This year, he's got no home runs, no RBIs, no doubles, no triples. He's got 4 hits in 29 at-bats. But again, he's got 6 walks. He led last year. I don't know if you know this. He led the American League in strikeouts and walks last year. He walked 111 times and struck out 213. That's where it makes no sense to me. It's like everything he swings for is a home run. I think if he changed his approach a little bit with that eye, he could actually contribute more. I just don't know. But he's going to kill us in this lineup in big situations. Especially, we know Stanton strikes out a lot. We know Judge strikes out a lot. It's just part of their lineup. But they also, bat 270, 280. They drive in, a lot of runs. They do a lot of things in clutch situations. They've done it. We can't have him in the lineup when they're slumping like that because he doesn't pick up the slack. We need a guy to pick up the slack. We don't – at the bottom of the lineup, there isn't anyone like that right now. And I don't know where you make the changes. They had their opportunity in the offseason, but they don't want to go over the cap anymore. They don't want to go over the luxury tax.
Yeah. Since he's been a Yankee, 68 games, 157 average, 22 RBIs, 99 strikeouts, at 217 at bats. Yeah. So how as a manager do you put someone in the?
He's got 158 in how many games?
In 68 games.
I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
158. It's just insane.
I know.
It's insane. I don't know.
Well, so that's the Yankees. Our other New York team is going in a different direction. The Mets have been outstanding.
Yeah, the Mets have played great.
They're pitching right now, 1.07 ERA right now in 50 innings, managed by the great Buck Showalter, former Yankee manager. David Peterson actually made his first start because of the injured Tajon Walker and was phenomenal. I think he only gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts in 4 or 5 innings. P. Alonso continues to crush it. He has three home runs. And again, the Mets are just off to a great start. Their bullpen's definitely helping too. Chase and Streve, Edwin Diaz, Drew Smith. They've just been fantastic. So far so good. They're playing the Giants in the next series, which will be interesting because I think both teams could potentially be contenders. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I like. What I like about the Mets is Sterling Marte. I think he brings a lot of balance to the lineup. He actually leads off every game for them. For some reason, that makes a lot of sense to baseball teams. Not on the other side of the river, but in Citi Field, he leads off.
Right.
He's the guy's he's a professional hitter. He's a career 290 90 hitter. He's got speed. He makes contact. Like you said, with Alonso and Liriano and that lineup, they're a more balanced team. Like again, those are the guys that, the Yankees don't have a guy like that, right? They don't have that balance, and that's what the Mets have. But the Mets also, DeGrom is out, right?
Yeah, so they're still doing this.
He's going to be back, in about another month and a half, if everything goes well. Bassett has been amazing.
He's been absolutely amazing. Right. Shout out to Matt Carl. That's his guy. He's been so high on him. Yeah. He's playing so well.
And they got Mad Max, right? But, we know it's cold in April. We know it's going to take time for guys to warm up even more, as time goes on. Pitchers are even a little behind still from the lockout. I think this Mets team has got a good shot of rolling into June with DeGrom coming off the injured list, and have a really, really good chance of pushing close to 100 wins this season, the way things are lining up right now. I give them a lot of credit. They're much better than I even thought they were. I thought they were going to struggle a little bit with the injuries early on. I thought Scherzer's hamstring might have been a problem in DeGrom, but no issues there at all. Real good start. 10 games into the season for them also. Very impressed with what they're doing there over in Citi Field.
They've been playing so well. It's been fun to watch. Been really fun to watch.
They are. They're a lot of fun to watch. So I'm guessing they've been a pretty good, if you bet them every single game, you win 7 out of 10. So that's pretty good too.
Do you think about that? Like,
what?
I'm sure somebody at the beginning of the year, you're like, you know what? The Dodgers should win over 100 games.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll invest every game, just bet them, money line.
Yeah.
And you're going to be profitable.
Well, here's the thing. So let's think of it this way, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say you start with $10, right? Be very reasonable. Start with $10, and you hit, right, and you win $12, right? So now you've got $22 in your account. Do you now go the next game with a $12 bet? And try to make it, continuing to increase your bet as you win and lose, right? So let's say you put the 12 in, now you lose, you're back down to 10, or as you win multiple games, right? So now it's like $10, $12.
Are you trying to make a blackjack reference here?
No, I'm just saying, right?
I'm just saying, I'm making a joke because
well, you keep stacking, right? You keep stacking, but again, that's a good point. Do you bet a team like the Dodgers like you would play blackjack, right? Like you start off on a $20 table on blackjack. You get, you throw your C note at the dealer. You hit a few, right? You hit you hit a couple blackjacks, a couple double downs, and then your wager's up to $40 a hand instead. Do you do a similar thing with a team like the Dodgers? But again, money line odds could be a lot different,
right?
So you might have
minus whatever, right? You're
right.
not.
So So what are some of your thoughts on that?
I think you just have fun with it. So I don't know if I were to do it. The way I would start out, like minimum bet, right? $10. You win it. Let's say you win 12, right?
Yeah.
And then you put that on the next game, but you keep increasing your bet until you lose, because you have to think that this is a team that's not it's going to rarely get on a streak that's going to lose like 4 or 5 games in a row. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
It's going to be very rare that this team does that, right? Because if they're going to win over 100 games, you have to figure maybe that happens once or twice every so often. So you bet the minimum, and then as they go on the winning streak, you just go up, up, up. But when they lose, you go back to your minimum bet. I think that would be a lot of fun. And then sometimes if all these games are minus 1.5 better odds, if they're playing some subpar teams, then you bet that. So, hey, it could be a lot of fun. It could be interesting.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah, it's something you got to manage, of course, right? And to see how it works out. Oh, maybe in a week or two we'll have somebody on that knows maybe a little bit more about that and can ask them some of those questions. Let's flip real quick, to the NFL, like we like to do, and it's always a big part of our show. And it came out today again about some wide receivers and Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, and Terry McLaurin, all in their final year of their rookie deals. They were second and third round picks. I think Brown and Samuel were second, and McLaurin was a third rounder. So they're all in their final years of their rookie deals, but they're all number one receivers on their teams, all seeing what Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill got as number one receivers moving on.
Yes.
They're younger guys than both of those guys. And they're all threatening to not participate in off-season workouts, maybe potentially holding out for bigger contracts. We're moving into the draft in 10 days, which, has already been a lot of movement in the NFL, as we know. There's quarterbacks out there that still potentially could get traded, get moved, other players, more picks, multiple teams with multiple picks and everything. So, you're a Jet fan, all right? And I'm dangling one of those three guys in front of you. Are you going to give me a first-round pick for one of them?
It's very tempting because what do the Jets need? They need a wide receiver. So all of them are tempting because they're all very strong and still in the prime of their careers. So I think it's definitely worth it. I do. I think to get one of these guys on your team. And do you remember, Vinny, that even with Metcalf, right? That was talked about as well, and everyone was ecstatic if he would have became the Jets. I think the whole Tyreek Hill thing was so crushing because we were so close. So if you could get one of these guys, I think it's definitely worth it. You agree?
Yeah, and again, Tyreek Hill thing, usually Jet fans are upset that the Jets didn't do enough to get a guy.
They did everything they could.
They did everything possible. He just did not want to come to New York. He wanted to go to Miami. He want to live in warm weather and pay no state tax, right? Basically. They would have gotten the same deal from the Jets. He would have the same amount of money, the same years, all the same things. Jets were all in on it. I even think Kansas City was getting a bigger package than Miami was given, and I don't think the Jets were giving up any of those top first round picks either, which would have been amazing for the Jets if they could have Tyreek Hill and still kept those two picks. But again, with all that being said, I honestly, I look at where the Jets are now and what their needs are. I think AJ Brown is the best fit for them. I think he is the true number one receiver, big guy. I think he just got Deebo does a little other things besides just being a receiver. But I think A.J. Brown is just one of those guys to me that reminds me of Terrell Owens. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He just does all the little things. He's just a really super talented guy. Now, again, I doubt Tennessee would trade him, to the Jets, but you never know. We've seen crazier things, I doubt they'll trade him, but these lockouts, these potential, the amount of money that I think we spoke about with the salary cap, the potential of teams being $100 million more in salary cap in another 5 years, all that playing into it, these guys are going to want some big contracts. They're looking to get into them like early now. These agents are pushing hard at these teams, but again, you still got to sign a lot of other players and all that stuff. I think it becomes a real interesting thing coming in 10 days here. I think you're going to be more chatter about potential trades of guys come draft time than we've seen in a while, and I think we could have some interesting draft day trades.
Well, one thing for sure that this NFL offseason has been the most exciting that we've ever seen.
Oh my God!
And we will see surprises.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to come.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I tell you, I never thought Russell Wilson would go to Denver. I never thought Matt Ryan would go to Indianapolis.
How about Devontae Adams?
I never thought about that. Let me tell you, people ask me about the draft coming up, right? And I'm like, yeah, we got, we don't pick until the third round. Oh, really? How do you feel? I'm like, you know what? I don't care. So what? We gave up those picks. We got Devontae Adams. We got the number one receiver in football. If you don't even consider him the number one, he's number two. If you're crazy and don't think he's a 1 or 2, he's at worst the number 3 receiver in all of football. He's a top receiver in football. He goes into a team that we need a real legit number 1. We put him around Carr and Renfro and Waller, and we picked up Robinson, and we got the 3-headed monster now on the running backs. We picked up Chandler Jones on the defensive side of the ball. It's a lot of excitement out here in Vegas. Everyone's getting pumped up for this, and then the draft is out there. This year, that should be amazing to watch on TV. Probably like 10 million people will be there. But but in all seriousness, probably got like a few 100,000 out there.
Yeah. I just want to say some crazy stat about Devontae Adams real quickly. Did you know that he hauled in 96.1% of his catchable targets?
Yeah,
I mean that's crazy. With at least it's unreal.
And think about the amount. It's 96% of his targets. Look how many times he gets targeted.
I know.
There's not a guy that gets targeted 100 times and caught 96 balls. This guy gets targeted 140 times, 150 times, and catches a tremendous amount of balls.
Yeah.
And again, he had Aaron Rodgers, but there's a comfort level with Carr. They played together at Fresno State. Everybody knows in the offseason for years that they've worked out together. That was well known. Adams has a house in Vegas, which people know, well known. They know him and Carr State, friends together. So it becomes a pretty natural transition for him in that perspective.
Yes.
And Josh McDaniels' offense, man. It's that good offense. We saw what he did with Mac Jones last year. We know what he's done through the years with Brady. Yes, he fell off a little bit when he became the head coach of Denver. But here's the thing. Josh McDaniels won a playoff game with Tim Tebow. Just remember that. I know the guy didn't do well after that, but he did figure out how to win a game with Tim Tebow. There's a lot of excitement here. The AFC is insane. But there's a lot of excitement, with the Raiders, and especially what we're going to see this year at a lot of these teams.
Can't wait. I just want to fast forward. I do.
Well, we're 5 months away. It comes a lot faster than we think, right? Actually, we're basically 4.5 months away, and all that. Did you watch? By the way, did you catch any USFL?
I have to be honest with you, I did not.
Neither did I. I wanted to catch it. Didn't have time because of holidays and other things, and then the NBA playoffs, and then.
Well, that's what I'm nervous about with the league, that you're competing with the NBA playoffs.
Well, I'll tell you, here's the thing that I heard from multiple people, and maybe I'll see if I can find a replay or something. They said the football was pretty good. The games were good. The big problem for a lot of people is everything's played in Alabama. So there's no home
field advantage.
Yeah, but there's no commitment from you as a fan, right? Saying, "Oh, here's the New Jersey Generals," but they don't play in the Meadowlands. They don't play in Yankee Stadium. You know what I mean? They're not around the area, right? So,
well, if they get renewed for year 2 and they could push in revenues, maybe that will be something that happens.
Yeah, right? But is it going to attract you this year to watch games?
No,
that's the thing.
It's not. I had a question. Do you know any substantial rule changes from that league in NFL, or is there any specific things that you've heard about from people that's different, or is it the same kind of game?
I haven't looked it up.
Okay.
I didn't look it up. I didn't hear anything. Okay. We were hoping to get some USFL people on the podcast. We did have some communication with them. So since they didn't communicate back to us, I refused to watch the league until they want to be part of it.
You don't tell us no.
That's right. You tell us no, now we don't watch you.
That's right. I definitely want to check it out next weekend. I do. I want to just.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's football, right? People love football. My thing is what level of player you're going to get, what's going to vest you in watching, a USFL game over the Nets and Celtics, right?
That's the hard part.
What's going to vest you in watching, over, Phoenix and let's just say, Western Conference Championship, Phoenix, Golden State, Bucks, Nets, Bucks, Celtics, Heat, Nets,
Well, I'm sure.
And then what's going to make you not want to watch Garrett Cole pitch against Max Scherzer, right? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's baseball and NBA playoffs. And I'm sure I was going to say that back in the 80s, probably the same kind of thing happened. And that's why it lasted for a couple of years, because back then, Showtime basketball. NBA, Michael Jordan, just started.
Well, so what happened with the USFL originally is they tried to compete against the NFL head to head.
So they weren't even playing in the spring.
So they started, So they started. They wanted to be a spring league, and they didn't want to put a lot of money into it. And they brought in these big people, owners, our former president as one of the owners. And Trump wanted to compete against the NFL. And so did the other big owners. And that's where they made the big mistake, because the NFL, even back in the 80s, when it wasn't the league it is today, was still too powerful, to compete against. So they basically, folded because they didn't. The idea, what they're doing now, is to try to come in slowly, and be a spring league and build up like a spring kind of following. Keep it, that's why they're keeping everything in Alabama, to keep expenses down. They're trying to do everything to keep expenses down and build a core audience. I don't know. We'll see.
Did you tell me that the XFL is coming back as well?
XFL will be back as a spring league next year.
So that will be
compete against the USFL.
Wow.
And the XFL just hired their coaches. I know Rod Woodson was one.
Wade Phillips.
Wade Phillips is coming back. Stoops is jumping back on the bandwagon again. He was originally a coach before COVID with the XFL. He's back. He's coaching. I think he's coaching the same team he coached then. So he's back. Yeah, Wade Phillips I saw. There's a couple other big names. So the coaches are in place. They have 8 teams. I don't know if they'll be traveling like the NFL. I would think they are. I would think they're going to have more of like a home field kind of feel. And we'll see how it plays out. They're also got to deal with the NFL. So that's the thing with the XFL. They have a safety kind of deal with the NFL. So they're testing like safety things in the XFL for the NFL. So they already have a deal in place with them. So I don't know. I think eventually you're going to see like a minor league kind of system here. You can have the USFL and the XFL both maybe coexist, both be minor leagues, one be an AFC minor league, one be an
Maybe they'll merge. Maybe they'll merge.
That's it. They'll merge like the AFL and the NFL. Well,
merge.
The AFL, when they started, there was the same concept, was that they had some big money behind them, big owners, and they wanted to start off slow and build it up, and they really built it up. The NFL had to basically buy out the AFL so there wasn't all that infighting of college players. That's really the only way you end up making noise is if you're actually taking a number one pick, a la Joe Namath, right? Like he's the reason Joe Namath is such a big star. Not only the Super Bowl win, you can look at his stats and go, man, this is like one of the worst stats I've ever seen in my life. But He chose the AFL coming out of Alabama. He went to the Jets. He played in the AFL, and he legitimized the AFL, even though the merger was already taking place. It was already signed, but they won the Super Bowl, right? And they said the AFL can compete with the NFL. And right there at that point, here's a guy with a big personality in New York, wins a Super Bowl. I think they were 18-point underdog. All those little things made, Joe Namath his bigger than life person that he still is to this day, but also showed the legitimacy of the AFL and made the merger better and really brought all these guys in. But then you didn't have all this competing with draft picks, right? Like, in the AFL draft, Joe Namath went here. I forget who drafted him in the NFL. I can't remember who drafted Joe Namath in the NFL. But those guys would get drafted by both leagues, and then you had to make a choice. If the XFL and USFL really want to compete, they need to get guys coming out of college to go directly to those leagues. Now, how they do that, that's something for them to figure out.
What it reminded me of too? The ABA with Julius Erving. Mm-hmm. Same kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ABA players, right? Darryl Dawkins, I think, was in the ABA early in, right?
Yeah. Want to hear something cool? My dad, with the Nets, they actually used to play where Rutgers play. They played at Rutgers.
Okay.
So he had season tickets when they played at Rutgers, which was pretty cool. And it was probably so cheap to go back then. So much fun, though.
So did he get to see Dr. J play?
He got to see Dr. J. He got to see Bernard King when he was actually a Net before he was a Knick.
Okay.
He saw Earl Monroe when he was still a Knick. So
yeah, I think I told you my dad used to go to the Garden in the late 60s because he worked at an insurance firm in the city, and they had like season tickets. And he would just go with like different insurance brokers or whatever they were back then, and they would just sit in the seats that the company owned and watch games. And he would talk. He would always tell me was the best player he ever saw back then was this young center named Lou Alcindor who played for the Bucks.
Wow.
He said Kareem was like amazing even back then in the late 60s, early 70s.
Saying that Kareem was the best all-around player, high school. Mm-hmm. College, pro.
I said this the other day to my brother. At one time in his career, he was the number one player in high school, the number one player in college, and the number one player in the NBA. There's not a single other guy in the history of sports, as well basketball, that can say they were the number one guy at every level. That's why, like when they talk about the top players of all time, and you specifically break out the NBA. Yes, Michael Jordan. Yes, LeBron. But Kareem's top 5 also. No matter which way you put it, he's top 5. But if you're going to look at someone's whole basketball career from the time they were, in high school all the way through college, all the way through the NBA, Kareem's your guy. There's no one that's going to be able to match him. People might say LeBron, but I'll tell you, LeBron didn't go to college, so we can't compare it, right? It's not fair. You could say Jordan, but I don't know if Jordan wasn't even the first overall pick, coming out of school, so he wasn't the best college player in people's minds. So if you take all that into consideration, to me, he's still the guy. So. I think we're good today, man.
We are good.
Rolled it out. This was our second, by the way, we didn't even mention this. This is our second show. We've done solo, no special guest. We try to bring on a guest for interview. I think we're starting to line some of those people up. We've had some conversations. We're getting close. We're getting close to people wanting to come on for us to interview them. I think they're a little afraid of you, is what I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
They're afraid of all the questions you might ask.
Yeah, tough questions on this show.
Yeah.
Intimidating questions on this show. Watch out.
You might get asked about what you did in college in 1973.
Yeah.
What was that incident?
Social media. I'm going to put it on social media.
What was that incident you pulled there, Kareem, in '66 at Power Memorial? Huh? What was that? All right.
Don't forget, real quick, check out our Instagram page,
Oh, yeah.
Vin and Mike podcast.
Yep.
Put a lot of good content, stories, our parlays, even Vinny's that
terrible one, the worst in the history of parlays ever.
We're having a lot.
Maybe whatever I put out there, people will bet against and do well.
Yeah.
That was a horrific parlay. Like I've done, pretty good off once in a while.
You have.
But that wasn't even close to being good.
No.
I think the over-under on Bam was 21. I think he scored 6, and I think Trae Young scored 8. I think they combined for 14 points. I think that's what they combined for. So you could have taken the under 20 on Trae Young and made a fortune.
No. I know. Who would have thought?
Yeah. No, I honestly thought with the injuries and everything, but that's a whole other thing. I didn't. Who knows? I was just bad. All right. With my terrible picks and all that, we'll be back next week. Oh, one last thing. If you're listening to us on our website, but you prefer to listen to us on another service, we're there. Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Audible, Odyssey, you name it, we're there. We're out in Belgium. We're out in India. We're out in Germany. I've seen a lot of hits, from those countries. So we're on foreign services. We're literally everywhere. We're enjoying people, listening to us, getting a lot of good feedback. So really appreciate the audience out there as well. So,
thank you, everybody.
All right, Mike. Have a good night.
You too, man.